ReefDudes is sponsored by Brightwell Aquatics and Bulk Reef Supply.
Today we're going to check out the all-new Mastertronic. What's going on, guys? Devin from ReefDudes. Now today I am super excited because I finally have the pre-ordered Mastertronic. I've been waiting for this guy for a while, and I'm excited to give you guys a little bit of a unboxing, kind of first looks at it, and we'll go through the setup and we'll get it installed and rolling on my tank. Now I've been excited for this because this tests everything that I care about. Tests your alkalinity, your magnesium, your calcium, your nitrates, and your phosphates. So basically all the stuff we care about. And it even added their own parameter in OLI, which basically tests how much organics is in your water in a sense, or how clear your water is. So it can kind of give you an idea of when to change your carbon or whatnot. But enough of the small talk, let's get this baby unboxed and set it up. Ho ho ho. All right, so inside we got a set of our vials, and we got some tubing. So we got some of our needles, extra plungers, power supply, hanging bracket, a little tester, and the Mastertronic itself. Now the part we're waiting for, the Mastertronic. All right, quick sticker on the top, install in a well-ventilated area. Keep door closed when unattended. Be careful of sharp needles. So yes, it definitely does use like a medical style needle inside to draw the reagents. So again, make sure it's out of the way of kids. Now, when I first open it up, looking inside, we got all our stuff for shipping. You will notice a screw right there. That's there just for shipping purposes to keep everything locked in place. So make sure we remove that before we start it, and we'll clean up all those zip ties. There's a little warning label there. Make sure you remove this before powering it on. So definitely important first step. Now, a couple really cool standout features to me. Right here, we do have a leak sensor. So if anything is to overflow or leak, this pad's going to detect it and turn the unit off, which is a very important feature. A couple other things that I really like about this is this carousel holds 12 vials. Now that is enough to hold all the test kits that we're going to use on this. Now the next question you're probably wondering is what test kits can you actually use on it? So the ones that I'm putting inside of this one is we have the saltwater alkalinity test kit, API calcium test kit. We have the Red Sea Pro phosphate, the Red Sea Pro magnesium, and you can either use the Fauna Marine or Tropic Marin NO3 kit. So that's kind of the base test kits you want. I know at least with the NO3, the part C is a smaller bottle, so you will want to get 2 of these test kits for your initial fill. And there might have been something with one of the calcium kits possibly, I can't remember which one of them, that you may have needed a second one for. The nitrate I know you did for sure, at least for the first one. Now a couple other things to note. Your reagent is going to be going inside of these vials, so you're going to want to fill it up right to that little like hump on the edge there. It's kind of your fill line. You don't want to overfill this. Now there is a magnetic pill inside of it, so when the needle pokes inside of it, it only goes about 80% of the way down just to make sure it doesn't hit that little magnetic pill inside. So these will hold 20 mils, these vials, but you're actually only going to get to use about 16 mils of it or so. The last little 8 mils will be above that little pill, just in that kind of safety zone, just to keep the needle safe from poking it. So that is just one thing to note. Another kind of thing you want to keep in mind with the hoses, comes with 3 2-meter hoses. Now, the machine is calibrated to the length of the hose. So this is the one drawing water from the tank, as well as the one drawing RODI water. Now I know it does empty the hoses and does a couple things back and forth when it's doing its thing and it's testing. So you don't want to modify the length of these hoses. So, you know, I know sometimes you want to cut it and make it shorter or extend it. Find a spot where you put the machine where you can leave these hoses full length, then everything's calibrated, it's going to work properly and be issue-free for you. Now I did get a little bit of a deal on this, but worry not, because I still paid a good chunk of change, and I will always give you my honest and upfront opinion on absolutely everything. Now I have had an Alkatronic for probably about 2 years now, and it has been extremely solid and reliable for me, and I even picked up a second used one, which I fixed a couple things on it and then put on my second tank. So I have a lot of faith in this brand, so I'm pretty excited for this. Just the fact that it's going to do all my testing for me, and my track record with the other products I've used has been awesome. So that being said, let's get this installed and finish setting it up. Alright guys, now that was a lot of work. I had to do a little bit of rearranging on my controller cabinet to fit all this. I had to pull out the back of the cabinet for now just because the hoses were a little too tight up against the edges of it, and it gave me a little bit more space. So my control board, everything's still going to sit right in front of it. I mounted all my power bricks nicely to the back wall, cleaned up a ton of wiring with here. So my one problem is I know I needed to keep all the lines 6 feet, and my RODI is probably 12 feet below us. So that was a bit of an issue. So I put in a temporary 1-gallon tank for now. On this side of it, we got the line going to the tank. Now the line going to the tank goes through a little pre-filter. I have that little probe holder there just kind of holding it, and kind of just see the little bottom of it. So that's going to suck in, and that will bring tank water to the machine. This little 1-gallon space saver container is going to be my RODI water for it. Now eventually I'm going to figure out a way to auto top this off, and I was thinking, I don't know if it'll fit, but if I could fit a mini float valve into the side of this and key it into my ATO, it would just automatically top this off whenever my RODI or whenever my auto top off kicks on. So hopefully that will work, because if it will, then this will always be full. So I'm going to devise a plan so I do not have to refill it. We just plugged in the Mastertronic for the first time, and our first step is going to be connect to its Wi-Fi. So it's going to start with an M and then be the serial number. So we're going to let that join. All right, so we got an IP address, we're happy. Next step is going to be to open up the Focustronic app. Now the first time, this should take a minute or so to kind of figure out its configurations. And once it does, it should allow us to add it to the app. So give this a sec. Now, I already connected to it once just when I was testing it, but the password is MT password to join that Wi-Fi. Give it a sec. All right, so now it's asking for SSID and password. So this is SSID of your home Wi-Fi and the password for it. All right, changes saved, excellent. So now the device should now be online. Now what's going to happen is your device is going to reboot. You're going to see it's going to lose the connection. Now I'm back on my Wi-Fi, so I go back into the app. And now this is going to take a couple minutes. It took probably about 2 or 3 minutes before it showed up. But the app somehow found the device and added it to the default tank. So now I see my Mastertronic online. So I'm going to move this to another tank. So I'll move it to the water box. Now if I click on the dashboard for water box, at the bottom here, I see Mastertronic. So we're going to go into maintenance, and when I first boot up the device earlier, it said locked, and that's something they do for kind of transport, and it's just so it doesn't do its kind of like maintenance startup routines if the screw's still in there, like kind of a bit of a safety feature. So I'm going to say unlock device. Now on the screen it said unlocked. So now inside you can see things starting to move, and it's going to do its calibration kind of setup. Okay, so we have our needle installed. There is one little needle tip in the back, and that's just used as a vent to when it punctures the vial. And the front one is the one that's actually drawing the sample. It's pretty easy to clip it in. Just make sure you note that the one goes right behind it. And this little front white piece is a bit of a guard just to keep the needles lined up and perfectly centered. So now the next big step is to calibrate all of our pumps in it. So we click on calibrate in the app, and then we can just go through the list. So we're going to start with pump A. We're done, hit ready, and what that's going to do is go through and prime all the lines. Then after that, when we hit start, it is going to fill up our little test cylinder, our graduated cylinder, via the waistline. So for all these tests of the pumps, you're always measuring off the waistline, and this is again why it's important not to cut it or modify it, because it's a certain length which is going to affect how much liquid comes out of it. So leave it at, make sure it's at 2 meters, don't cut it, and we'll let it do its thing, fill our vial, and then in the app, all we have to do is update how many mils it was in there, and we're done. Now, one thing that makes this really easy, if you actually look at the door, is going to tell you exactly what's happening. So right now it says preparing pump A, and it will tell you if it's waiting for an input or waiting for you to enter what it is. So if you're ever curious what to do, literally just look at the LCD on the front, it walks you through it, makes it super duper easy. All right, there we go. So now the screen says put the waste hose into the measuring cylinder. So put this inside, and now I'm going to say start the test and calibrate. Now you can see the screen updated, dosing X number of mils into the cylinder. Now each one of these lines is 0.2, so that looks like we have about 7, 2, 4, 6, 8, I'm gonna say about 7.7 mils. So 7.7 mils, and hit save. So it is now calibrated and save that to the app. If you want, you can run the test pump accuracy, and it will just run it again just to double check it. Now when we're finished, as always, we want to make sure we just hit empty hose. That just clears out all the hoses. Now between each step, you do want to wait a minute, wait for the lines to empty and everything else to finish up. So we just calibrated pump A. Next we'll be calibrating the stepper pump, and that's that little guy in the back. And it's the exact same procedure, and you're using the waistline to measure the volume. After that, we calibrate the syringe position. Now that one's super easy. All it does is lift the plunger. You enter whatever the reading is on the plunger, hit save, you're done. The last one is OLI, and that's measuring basically your water clarity. And what you do for that one, you have 2 test cylinders down here. And this is kind of the reaction chamber. So what we would do for calibrating OLI is basically suck up some RODI water, fill it up, and then run the OLI test. Now you can do that once or twice just to make sure it's fully clear, but it's going to take RODI, which is kind of crystal clear, and take that value of it. It's basically testing how much clear, transparent light goes through it. And that way when it runs your tank water through it, it can tell the variance of how far it is away from that crystal clear water. Now as I load into the machine, it does have like kind of an order in the app, which goes nitrate, then phosphate, and I'm just gonna do them in the same order just so it makes it easy for future. I know which ones go where. And I'm also currently just putting the test kits just in front of their bottles because they did come with a set of labels, so we're going to label them all afterwards and just make sure we know which one's which. So this is the kind of way of doing it for now. Another kind of tip too is if you're filling this for the first time, buy the refill kits, like this test refill kit, because they're cheaper than main test kits, and there's no point paying for all those extra syringes and stuff if you don't need them. Now with this one, with the phonomer nitrate, part C is pretty tiny, so you do want 2 kits to start. And if you're using this for KH as well, same thing with the Salifert test kit. The KH indicator is a pretty small vial, so it takes 2 to start for the very first one. And then once you have refills, I mean 1 kit to refill, it's probably fine, but just kind of that note, those 2 you want to pick up two kits for your initial fill. All right, now that everything's done, it is good practice just to make a nice little label for everything, just so you know which vial's which. Makes it really easy if you're just looking at it. So let's do magnesium ABC. Okay, everything's labeled, done. It's time to load into the machine. The only thing left is to assign the vials. So on our Mastertronic, we're gonna go to parameters, and we'll start with nitrate. Scroll to the bottom and we're going to say reagent brand. So we're going to set this as Phonomarine, reagent A, and we're going to say it's going in vial 1. So we're going to assign it. Now this is already loaded vial 1, so we can add that one in. And it wants to know how many mils, so we're going to say 20 mils. And okay, so full vial is 20 mils. So Phonomarine save. So reagent B is vial 2, 20 mils. And save. And reagents 3, we'll put it in spot C, 20 mils. And save. So it's that easy to load it, tell it what you have inside of it. On here you can also assign dosetronic channels. So if we wanted to, if you have a dosetronic and you want to relate it to dose or adjust parameters based off of what these results are, that's where you'd set it up. So now that we have all our reagents loaded, everything's ready to roll. All we have to do now is schedule some tests. So I'm gonna set all mine to do a test on Friday morning. So every Friday, I'm just gonna have a full line of tests on everything on the tank. So let's just say Friday, select a reagent brand first. Okay, so I've got the reagent brand, Fauna Marine. So Friday morning, let's just say 5 a.m. Let's do 6 a.m. So each test takes about 20 to 30 minutes range from what I understand. Alright, so 1 a.m. to 6 a.m., just tell it to do a test every hour. So everything is installed and it's doing this kind of maiden voyage and going through all the tests. And at the same time, I'm just kind of doing some manual tests just to kind of compare it and just use the same reagents and make sure all the tests, everything line up. So this will probably be a couple hours of manual testing, but I'm excited to check it out. So far, kind of a first look at the Mastertronic. It's hooked up, it's testing, calibration was actually pretty darn easy. Now I'm letting it test and just do a bit of a spot check. So once I've played with it for a few weeks, I will give you guys an update on how everything is going with it. But so far, I'm pretty stoked to hopefully this will be my last round of testing for quite a while, so that'll be good. If you guys have any questions on it, let me know in the comments below, and I will touch on them on the next update on it. And as always, if you guys enjoyed this, hit that like button. If you're new, make sure you subscribe. I'll catch you guys on the next video.